In 1983, deep within the sterile corridors of a top-secret research facility, scientists were working on something that sounded impossible. At a time when personal computers were just beginning to enter homes and mobile communication was still in its infancy, this hidden laboratory was focused on something far more ambitious: direct communication between human minds. Their creation was a strange and elegant machine, a helmet designed not just to read brain activity, but to transmit thought itself. The helmet looked both futuristic and unsettling. Its chrome surface reflected the harsh fluorescent lights of the lab, while tiny sensors lined its interior, carefully positioned to touch the temples, forehead, and back of the skull. Small blinking lights and delicate dials hinted at the complex technology hidden inside. Soft padding allowed it to fit snugly, almost comfortably, as if inviting the wearer to surrender their thoughts. It was beautiful in a cold, mechanical way, but there was something else too. Something that suggested it was capable of more than anyone fully understood. Inside the lab, the atmosphere was tense with anticipation. Researchers moved quietly, documenting every detail. Their first volunteer was a young scientist named Mark. He sat calmly in a chair, the helmet secured around his head, while monitors displayed his brain activity in shifting waves and patterns. At first, the experiment appeared routine. Electrodes recorded electrical signals. Machines hummed softly. Nothing unusual happened. Then, the researchers activated the helmet's true function. The device began emitting subtle electromagnetic pulses, carefully tuned to match the natural frequencies of the human brain. These pulses were designed to do more than observe. They were meant to interact, to synchronize, and ultimately to connect two minds. Across the room, another volunteer sat wearing an identical helmet. Both participants closed their eyes, waiting. At first, there was only silence. But then Mark felt something strange. It wasn't a sound or a voice, it was a sensation, an emotion that did not belong to him. A sudden warmth filled his mind, accompanied by a faint mental image of sunlight and laughter. It felt like a memory, but not his own. He opened his eyes and looked at the other volunteer. The expression on their face told him everything. They had felt it too. The connection had begun. As the experiment continued, the experiences became stronger. Participants began sharing mental images, emotions, and fragments of memory without speaking a single word. They could project simple ideas, a tree, a color, a shape, and the other person would perceive it clearly inside their own mind. It was as if language had become unnecessary, replaced by pure thought. The researchers watched in amazement as brainwave patterns between participants began to synchronize. Neural activity aligned in ways never seen before. Thoughts flowed silently between individuals, forming an invisible network of shared consciousness. The potential was staggering. Military officials envisioned soldiers communicating instantly on the battlefield without radios. Psychologists imagined therapies where doctors could truly experience their patients' emotions. Artists dreamed of sharing creative visions directly, building entire worlds inside connected minds. The helmet represented a future where human connection could transcend words entirely. But alongside the excitement came fear. The helmet was not just receiving thoughts, it could influence them. By stimulating specific regions of the brain, it could evoke emotions, trigger memories, and shape perception. Participants reported moments of confusion, unable to distinguish their own thoughts from those of others. The boundary between individual minds began to blur. Then something happened that changed everything. During an intense session, Mark suddenly froze. His body went rigid, his eyes wide open but unfocused. The monitors erupted with activity. Brainwaves surged across frequencies the researchers had never recorded before. Mark was no longer simply sharing thoughts. He was receiving everything at once. Memories flooded his mind, his childhood, forgotten dreams, random emotions. And then, something even more disturbing. He began experiencing thoughts that belonged to the lead scientist overseeing the experiment. Private thoughts, hidden fears, things never spoken aloud. The connection had gone too far. The helmet had created a bridge without limits, without filters, and without consent. The room fell silent as the researchers realized what they had unleashed. This was no longer just communication. It was exposure, total and complete vulnerability. The human mind, once considered the ultimate private space, was now open. Shortly after that incident, the project was classified. Official records disappeared. Public mention of the helmet vanished. The research facility returned to silence, and the experiment became a secret buried beneath layers of security. But rumors persisted. Some claimed the technology was quietly developed for intelligence operations. Others believed it was abandoned entirely, deemed too dangerous to continue. Former researchers spoke only in vague terms, describing both the wonder and the terror of what they had witnessed. They spoke of the strange beauty of shared thought and the unsettling realization that identity itself could become fluid. Even today, no verified schematics of the helmet have ever surfaced. Its exact mechanisms remain unknown. Some believe it relied on early forms of neural entrainment and electromagnetic stimulation, a primitive ancestor of modern brain-computer interfaces. Others believe it tapped into principles science still does not fully understand. What remains undeniable is the idea itself. The possibility of direct mind-to-mind communication continues to inspire scientists and engineers. Today, modern brain-computer interfaces allow people to control machines with thought. Researchers are exploring ways to transmit signals between brains in limited forms. What once sounded like science fiction is slowly becoming reality, but with far greater caution. Because the story of the helmet reveals more than technological ambition. It reveals something fundamental about human consciousness. Our thoughts define us. They are our most private refuge, the place where identity lives. To share them completely would create unprecedented understanding, but it would also eliminate the barriers that protect individuality. The helmet was both a breakthrough and a warning. It showed that the human mind is not an isolated island, but a signal, one that can be read, influenced, and perhaps even merged. And that raises a question that still lingers decades later. If humanity truly had the power to connect minds completely, what would we gain? Perfect understanding? Endless empathy? Or would we lose the very thing that makes us human? The quiet, solitary space of our own thoughts? The helmet remains a mystery, a symbol of ambition, curiosity, and the dangerous beauty of discovery. It stands as a reminder that the greatest frontier is not space or technology, but the human mind itself. And somewhere, buried in forgotten archives or hidden laboratories, the idea still waits. Silent, patient, and powerful, ready for the moment when humanity once again dares to reach beyond the limits of thought.